My name is Dimitris Zermas. I'm a principal scientist at Sentera. I would like to take a few moments to thank the GeoawesomeNess team for being GeoAwesome and organizing this event, and all of you for attending today during these troubled times. I will be presenting the approach Sentera has taken in bringing machine learning at scale for addressing precision agriculture problems. Um, First, a few words about Sentera. We are an analytics company whose goal is to provide a single platform called Field Agent that integrates different data sources and generates agronomic insights. About 6 years ago, when Sentera was founded, we started as a hardware company, and we have been known for designing and producing fixed-wing drones and lightweight sensors for capturing high-resolution images, predominantly for the agriculture domain. I would like to start with a few definitions that I think will be helpful during this presentation. The goal of my team at Sentera is to offer actionable analytics to agronomists. And to put things in perspective, a standard example of a product that we'll be working on is the plant population map. The traditional way for agronomists to create plant population maps was to walk around the field in a zigzag pattern and manually count plants in different locations. Today, they can fly a drone and have a much more detailed and accurate representation of the plant population in just a few minutes. Agronomists are advisors to the growers, and they are also our main customers, Sentera's main customers. Since a single agronomist may manage tens to hundreds of fields for different growers, any solution that we come up with and propose to them needs to save the agronomist's time and allow them to make recommendations based on reliable and traceable data. Now let's talk about the common problems we are facing when trying to create and serve a plethora of products to a large number of agronomists. When people hear the word scaling and machine learning, which is the part of the title of this presentation, they think cloud computing or efficient databases. In my experience, the problem of scaling machine learning in precision agriculture is 80% data acquisition, efficient data curation, and building reusable pipelines. And 20% is the selection of the proper cloud tools and which is the right deep learning architecture to solve a problem. For the rest of this presentation, I think it'll be more valuable for everyone for me to focus to the 80%, the data aspect. I tend to split the precision agriculture data in two categories, physical observations and then the biological observations. And the physical observations have to do with things an agronomist can see and touch in a field. Drone images tend to capture those observations efficiently. And an example would be you want to count how many trees you have in a location. You can capture a picture from a drone from a high altitude, and you can effectively count the trees yourself. On the other hand, biological observations tend to be much more cryptic and hidden. Many more variables play a role in biological processes, and most of them cannot be depicted with an image. An example would be a disease of a plant. When the disease becomes visible, it is already too late, so you need to act before you can even see it. So we have to rely on various other observations, such as weather patterns, soil samples, tissue samples, etc. And the data availability between these two categories is massive. Or the differences in data availability is massive. For the tree counting example and the physical observations, a drone can collect hundreds of high-resolution images in about 20 minutes. It can cover an entire field and produce data that can be easily annotated even by non-expert annotators, non-agronomists, in other words. The massive amount of data collected in this case can train models that tend to be resilient to environmental condition changes. On the other hand, for a plant disease detection and the biological observations, the disease may not be even present in the particular field, and even if it is, the affected area may be very small or sparse. A disease that is not visible will require sources of raw data that may be untrustworthy and noisy and few in number. For example, the rainfall at a particular location could be an interpolation from several weather stations that may be far away from the location we're interested to measuring in. And the lack of massive amounts of data can become an obstacle for training machine learning models that generalize well. Therefore, we have two approaches. Generally, at Sentera, we started building the physical observation solutions as it was our sort of first thing to attack. And to handle machine learning scaling for products that utilize physical observations, we have implemented this pipeline that utilizes computer vision deep learning approaches, since the vast majority of the applicable data are images. We have architected our code base in three parts. We have tools that help the data curation, which is very important. An orchestrator that automatically trains and tests networks on a time schedule. Let's say every week we have data models, and tools at the application layer, which is essentially how do you deploy the trained models, and how do you perform all the post-processing necessary to generate the final result that goes to the agronomist. Everything starts with a large enough database that enables any meaningful training. And we know that not all data are created equal. The process of deciding which images carry more information than others is a very important first step. Currently, this process is based on empirical agronomic knowledge and requires some human effort, so we have not automated this completely. I'll be talking about it later. The selected datasets are sent to third-party annotation service for annotation being done by humans, and Jay from iMerit will be talking about this in more detail. The annotations are stored in a database and are easily queryable either by a quality control tool pipeline that tests the agreement between um, the agreement score between multiple annotators, or by an orchestrator code that triggers whenever there are enough new annotations in the database. This is this weekly training thing I talked to you about before. The training model is then stored in a database along with its testing results and is ready to be deployed, assuming that its accuracy is the highest from its peers. And then to close the loop, of course, you always need the feedback from the customer that assists the selection of problematic data sets that should be added to the database to make the product more robust. And this architecture allows for continuous deployment of better models. It is also a rapid prototyping and deployment platform for new products. For example, the same framework that creates the tree counting model is the one that can be used to create a corn counting model, because we're essentially talking about the same uh, computer vision problems that we're trying to solve, assuming, of course, there are enough data. For the biological observation solution, now things are more complicated, especially at the data origination and storing stage. So where do we get our data from? We need to make sure that APIs are maintained for a plethora of data sources like weather or tissue sampling, while making sure that we comply with any agreements we have with data providers. Some providers, for example, may allow their data to be stored outside their databases for up to a few hours. Otherwise, you violate the agreement and you may get fined if you start copying their data in your database. And another thing is dealing with the interpolation of data, both in space and time, which is very important, is something that can make or break a product. The entire process has to rely to agronomic expertise from our internal agriculture modeling team, which is a separate division from my team. Same goes for the quality control, which can be either very expensive because it requires agronomic expertise, or even impossible in some cases. For example, how do you verify that the disease you detected or predicted is actually present? Somebody needs to walk in the field at a specific location to verify. Not always possible. The rest of the pipeline is identical with the physical observations that we showed before, with the exception of the amount of models that are generated. A single nutrient recommendation product, for example, can have tens of models depending on the crop hybrid or the geographical location that it is targeting. And unfortunately, we have not been able to find a one model that fits all. We haven't had the indicators yet to show that something like this is possible. And finally, I'd like to talk about the challenges with respect to the physical observations. In the aforementioned solutions, there are areas that we're still actively working on, and we have not identified solutions that will scale, automatically scale yet. For the physical observations, the most important improvement would be the automation of the image selection that maximizes data variability. Simple image similarity and active learning experiments that we run have not yet resulted in a satisfactory approach. The biological observation pipeline is still being actively developed by us, and we're trying to answer questions such as how to maintain and deploy thousands of machine learning models, or to how to improve the model accuracy when the raw data input is sparse and of low quality. And finally, the data standardization is an area that requires work from the entire precision agriculture community. So I wanted to bring this up in this forum. Data providers tend to use proprietary or legacy protocols, and the maintenance of APIs that integrate with them is not small task. And with this, I'm finished my presentation. I'm returning the floor to the panel, and thank you all for your attention. Looking forward to seeing you at the QA.